All right, welcome everybody to Your Healthy Self. I'm your host, Regan Archibald, and today we've got some very interesting things we're going to be covering. We're going to be talking about how you can transform your 5 pillars of health, your gut health, your detoxification pathways. We're going to be talking about nutrition. We're going to be talking about hormones, and we're also going to be talking about neuropathy. So I want to see, as you guys come in here, I'm going to just give us a debrief of yesterday's hack. And I want to see how everybody slept because the hack last night was great. We had Sarah Sapinski and we talked about the importance of sleep and how Sarah and I both agreed that sleep is probably the number one thing you want to focus on when you're trying to improve your health. And it doesn't make sense because we're all taught that, hey, let's I'll sleep when I'm dead, or sleep is you're lazy if you're sleeping too much. But actually, it's the opposite. When you get really good sleep, your body can heal, your body can thrive. And so we shared with you guys. For those of you who missed it, I'm sorry you missed the hack, but you can go back and watch the recording. But for those of you who are there, you may remember that we talked about some of the real key things of sleep and the fact that we can actually live longer without food than without sleep might be a really good reason for you to start thinking about your sleep hygiene. There's an interesting study where they found that if you have less than 5 hours of sleep, one of the things that the researchers discovered is that you will actually turn off your ability to heal from cardiovascular disease. There's a study that showed that it doubles your risk just by sleeping less than 5 hours per night, which is crazy. Sleep not only improves your physiological functions, but think how much better you feel mentally after a good night's sleep. So I want to hear how you guys did last night on your sleep. I was asleep, so I missed it. Um, so how many of you slept great last night? I know a few of you yesterday, you said, man, I haven't slept good in a long time. And so we talked about some things that you could do. The challenge for the week is going to be digital. Turn off the digital things at least an hour before you go to bed. Put on some blue light blockers. Get a blue light blocking screen if that's how you need to read, or the Kindles. Sarah talked about a backlit Kindle that you can actually, it minimizes your exposure to blue lights. But yeah, getting great sleep is so fundamental to health. So the challenge is shut off any stimulatory things, no TV, no news, nothing like that. No Facebook images flashing, those are very addictive and it triggers your brain to get activated and into alpha waves. So turn off all those things an hour before bed. Go to bed in a room that's cooler, ideally below 70 degrees. And then make sure at night before you go to sleep that you're thinking about something you're grateful for, some things that you've accomplished in the day, and then give your brain something to work on at night before you go to bed. So even if that's just like, hey, I really want to I'm going to be reading this new book, and so make sure you give your mind something to work on before you go to sleep, because your subconscious brain is so powerful, and that's a way you can activate this reservoir of wisdom that you've got just by sleeping. And I posed the question. I said, how many of you have heard the advice, never go to bed angry? If you're having a argument with your spouse or with one of your loved ones, or a close relationship with you. And I said, I don't know, because sometimes your brain can organize the chaos, and then you wake up in the morning, and if you've had a good sleep, you're not really that angry anymore, and you realize you're just being ridiculous because you're tired. It's no different than when we're a kid. 3-year-old, you can tell when they need a nap, right? It's time to put them down. Let's get them a little rest. And so I think a lot of us need better sleep. So let's see how you guys did. Cheryl, good job. Fitbit says 8 hours and 19 minutes. Whoop. That is great. Can anyone beat that? That's phenomenal. Wow. Last night, truth be told, I missed the hack because we're at the Jazz game. And so by the time we got home, it was about 11:30, and I have made part of the challenge is get in bed by 9:30, which I do 99% of the time. But last night was one of those nights where I didn't. But the Jazz won, so it was all worth it. But I'll be back on it tonight. All right, so we're gonna so just to segue into the topic today, let's jump in, and first of all, I want to go through just kind of some overview of what we've been working on in this 100-day process, because one of the most important things you can do to your body, I talked about the 5 core pillars of health earlier, and I'm going to write these out, and then we're going to go through and dissect the 100-day challenge, and I'm going to show you guys just kind of what some basic outlines are of things you can do for it. Okay, so let's jump in. So first pillar of health that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about your gut and detoxification pathways. And so if you look at the gut and the detoxification pathways, one of the most important processes in the body to heal is your digestive system. And so if you read Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, even the Greek medicine, Hippocrates, it all starts with food. He said, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. But the problem with food is if you can't absorb it and you can't digest it, it's going to be really challenging to have a lot of nutritional value from it. So one of the first things we want to do is open the gut and detox pathways. And so you guys are probably saying, well, how do we do that? Well, if you go to my book, Your Health Transformation, and you go to page, I'll just put the page number, and if you could provide a link, that would be awesome. But if you go to page 97 on Your Health Transformation, there's a whole chapter that is around the liver. And I was speaking to a patient yesterday, and I was doing her lab review. And as we started looking, we realized, man, her liver is in severe danger. Her doctor, her hematologist was looking at her labs and said, wow, you've got cirrhosis of the liver. And so she came to us because her brother had a liver transplant. She does not want to have a liver transplant. And, when I started explaining the 5 pillars of health, she said, oh, I've read your book, Regan. I totally, that liver diet, I've already started it and I already am feeling better. And so what we don't realize is our liver is this very busy organ. And so when we talk about the gut and the detox pathways, a lot of times we go right to the stomach and the small intestine and the large intestine, but we actually need to get the liver involved, because the liver is what's executing on the entire plan or strategy of metabolizing these proteins, breaking them down, activating the bile secretion to emulsify fats. The liver also has what's called gluconeogenesis, so it helps stabilize the blood sugar. So the very first pillar of health is the liver and the digestive system. So that's the liver. Not only does it have 4 detox pathways, and so we want to look at all those detox pathways, but the other thing it does is it's got over 200 digestive functions, and then it's got about 600 hormonal functions. So it's the busiest organ in your body. So right now, if you go right under your right rib cage, let's just palpate our liver a little bit. And then we can see, are you treating your liver kind? And so if you find your xiphoid process, that's the little bone right at the end of your rib cage, you go down about 1 inch, and then you go over about 2 inches. If you press here on the right side and it feels really tender, well, you might have some gallbladder issues, or you might have some liver issues. And then you palpate even deeper and go along the bottom of the rib cage. Your liver is sitting right there, and it's a big old organ. And so just palpate that for a minute. But one of the things that you can do every single day to maximize your energy levels, to maximize the ability to digest, is just massage your liver. And we talked about anger, that emotion earlier. Never go to bed angry, but the liver is the most important organ when it comes to resolving emotions like anger, frustration, overwhelm. from a Chinese medical perspective, those emotions get stored up in our liver. So just like we have to detox from some of the plastics in our environment and some of the pollution that we're exposed to, the liver is actually really important for metabolizing and getting rid of some of those emotions that can be very toxic. Oh, thanks, Ann. Ann's got that link right there. But yeah, the liver is like number one for, first pillar of health. And so one of the things that really helps the liver is when you have gratitude and you feel this feeling of benevolence is what some of the ancient sages write about, is that the liver is like green bamboo. It can be flexible. It blows in the wind, and it can kind of change its perspective based on the circumstance, but it's never deviating from its upward path towards heaven. And so it's really interesting to think about. And so right now, let's just do a little liver activity and infuse some gratitude into our liver, which is weird because the heart is obviously where we feel it in Western society, but in some of the Chinese society and the Eastern philosophy, it's the liver that really gets that purging effect. And so I just want to thank each and every one of you for being part of this incredible community, this mission that we're on to end pain and chronic disease naturally. You guys have just made my life so incredibly enriching because of our relationships. And many of you have reached out, and I really appreciate you guys and the support that you've had with the clinics, especially lately with our new news with some of our regenerative medicine products going away after today. So actually tomorrow morning, I believe our deadline's 10 o'clock. So if you guys, if anyone still has not gotten involved in getting some of these tissue products, well, get them, because we will not be able to order them after tomorrow at 10. As far as we know, there's just some too many things up in the air. So get that taken care of. But for those of you who have, thank you so much. And for those of you who have been part of this journey, I mean, some of you, I'm looking at the names on here, and like Ardith, I mean, you've been with me for 17 years. It's crazy. Laura, another one, 17 years. It's so amazing to have you guys as part of this community. And several of you have been with me for years. And so I can't thank you enough for being part of this community. And it's my mission. Every day I wake up and I say, how can I be of great service to the people in my community? How can I give them better answers, better guidance? What research do I need? How can I express myself in a way that will motivate people to do something about their health? And awesome, Diane, I'm so glad you got that taken care of. It's been so wild around here. So good. Yeah, well done. Okay, so as you look at your gratitude process, the liver, so there's an interesting thing that happens with your liver at night when you're sleeping, and there's a process where your hoon, and this is some Eastern philosophy, so we'll get a little esoteric, and then I'm going to bring it down right to the science. But the hoon is the part of your soul that protects you when you're sleeping. So the hoon actually resides over your body so that your subconscious mind can actually get replenished. And in Eastern philosophy, there's a lot of thought about the soul actually going back to heaven at night when we're sleeping, or the Shen is what they call it, that spirit that resides over your heart. That's the emperor or the empress. And that goes back to heaven and gets endowments of wisdom. And then the next day you can wake up and you're full of light and wisdom. But if you're doing things that are going to be damaging to your liver function before you go to sleep at night, it's going to be much more challenging to have that protection you need so that you can really enrich your subconscious mind. Now, you guys feel free, if you're like, Regan, you're getting really deep into this crazy philosophy, shut it down. I'm happy to just stick to the science, but I think it's cool to just look at things through a different contextual lens. But so let's talk about that. So what happens actually at night is between about 1 and 3 a.m., your liver gets really busy. And this is your scientific perspective. Between 1 and 3, that's when your body, your soul's getting nourished by the heavens. But the thing that's going on from a physiological perspective, if you went to bed and you didn't eat about 3 hours before you went to sleep, then you've got this, your digestive process is pretty well handled, so that your liver can actually do its work. If you're eating late up into the night and then you go to bed with a full stomach, your liver never gets a chance to replenish itself. But what the liver is doing is it's taking toxins, it's mobilizing those, it's turning them into this water soluble particle that you can actually excrete. You excrete it through pee, poop, you can sweat it out. And then when it's doing that, the other thing that the liver is doing is it's producing bile, and it's pushing the bile into the gallbladder. So your gallbladder stores that bile to be secreted when you eat fats the next day. And so for those of you who don't have a gallbladder, you want to make sure you're getting bile salts. Otherwise, you're not emulsifying the fats. And there's an easy way to see if your liver, the bile is so critical because it helps you produce insulin. What the bile also does is it helps stabilize your body's ability to detoxify. It creates fatty acids, so it emulsifies the fat, so you can actually use those from a cellular perspective. So if you have brain fog, there's a good chance that you're not emulsifying your fats. But the thing you want to look at is in your stool, is you'll see a little kind of greasy film on, and sorry, we're talking about bowel movements right now, but you'll see a little greasy film on the water of the toilet, or you'll see your stools are more tan. And that's a really good indication that you've got some gallbladder issues where you're not emulsifying the fats. So liver is really important for that. What about proteins, Regan? Well, the proteins, if you look at the protein digestion and absorption, it's your liver that actually has to take those proteins and denature them in a way that your body can actually get those amino acid chains put together. And that becomes the building blocks for your regeneration in your muscles, your tissues, your ligaments, everything. So I'm looking, as we look at your labs, some things that you want to start checking out is, what is your Boone levels, like your blood urea nitrogen, because that's one of the byproducts of protein digestion. And it's kind of like the exhaust in your car. The Boone is that kind of byproduct of protein absorption. You look at your total protein, which will show up in the blood. And if it's too high or too low, that gives you an indication if you're eating enough protein in your diet. So these are big deals. If you look at your albumin levels, albumin is one of the carriers. It's a protein molecule, but it's a carrier that if albumin gets low, you'll know you're dehydrated. And the hydration is another critical aspect of keeping your liver really healthy and flushed out. And so all these things are absolutely critical, and they help you sleep. So at night, your liver's going through and it's it's excreting toxins. The other thing it's doing is it's taking hormones and it's deactivating hormones that have already been used, because if you have hormones that are being recycled in your body, these are inactive hormones and they just bind to hormone receptors, but they aren't active. So it's almost like, if you put a dead battery in, I have this frother that I use, and for my coffee, for my thick coffee, with all the collagen and butter I put in it. And if the batteries go dead, then that thing just moves really slow. And that's what happens when we're not excreting our hormones. Is they bind to cells, and then the cell said, we can't use this, get out of here. And then it goes into a fat cell, and those fatty cells accumulate. And that's where people are like, I don't eat any extra food, Regan. I'm on this 1,500 calorie diet a day and I exercise like crazy and I still can't stop putting on weight. Well, a lot of the reason is because you're not excreting your hormones, because your liver's not cleaned out, which is, once again, why we focus on 5 pillars of health. Because if you just try to correct a hormonal imbalance by putting hormones in the body, it's not going to do it. So let's talk about some of the great things that you can do to treat your liver. Well, one of the great peptides you can use that your liver loves if you have blood sugar imbalance is MOTS-C. And so that's a mitochondrial derived peptide, and it's spelled MOTS-C. And this peptide, it's kind of similar. If you guys have studied like rapamycin or the mTOR and the AMPK pathway, one of the things that MOD-SC has been shown to do is it can inhibit the mTOR pathway. And so that actually allows your AMPK pathway to become activated, which means you get rid of the cells that are no longer functioning properly. And then you get this activation as if your body has exercised. You get this mitochondrial activation, and the mitochondria is like the engine of the cell. So MOD-SC is one of the best peptides you can use for your liver. And in many of our peptide programs, we look at MOD-SC as putting that in either phase 2 or phase 3, because we've got to typically get some pathways opened up and do some reparative work first, because in our 3-phase process, many of you have seen our program designs that we write out for you. We start in phase 1, which is remove the triggers, remove inflammation, remove the things that are getting in the way. So in your liver, some of the things we want to remove first are, well, get rid of plastics. That's part of our 100-day challenge, right? We get rid of plastics, get rid of the makeup that has the lead in it. That's going to bind up your liver, and lead gets into the brain. Can be very, very dangerous. You want to get rid of, make sure you have good air, get an air purifier. So get rid of pollution as much as you can. Get rid of those negative relationships. So even if you don't have any friends, at least you got rid of the negative relationship, right? Okay, that's a joke. We're gonna, sometimes don't get rid of everybody, but there might be some relationships that you need to set boundaries for, and that's really healthy for your liver. And some of us, we set boundaries by ignoring it, or we set boundaries by, confronting everything and coming at it full swing. But you can actually set boundaries in a very healthy way and with a lot of kindness and generosity. So when I say set boundaries, it doesn't have to be like some crazy, like knockdown fight. But yeah, set some great boundaries in your liver. But the removal pathway, a lot of times we're using some of the peptides like thymosin alpha 1 or epitalin, because it resets the central nervous system and gets your body out of that chronic fight or flight response. And then in the phase 2, we go to the repair and regenerative phase. And that's where we'll use like BPC 157, thymosin beta 4, because those have been proven to repair the endothelial cells. So all your blood vessels circulate better. That's where you start to get better heart integrity. You'll heal your leaky gut. So there's so much that we can do now with peptides that we've never been able to do before. And then the MOD-SC is kind of like, this is the main activator for the mitochondria in the cells, and it helps your liver process hormones better. It mitigates insulin resistance. There was a study where they took adolescent teens, and I believe there were 60 teens in this study, and 30 of them just did the traditional treatment for type 2 diabetes and obesity. They called it diabesity in adolescents in this study. And the other group got the MOD-SC and did traditional treatments. But the interesting thing is the group that did the MOD-SC, virtually all of them ended up getting off or whittling down their medication. So they're on much less metformin by the end of this 90-day trial. So, and we've seen that with our diabetic patients, better blood sugar stabilization. They feel a pep in their step. I had a patient yesterday that said, I just feel a little more like alive with this. Like I feel this sense of vitality that I haven't felt in decades. So MOD-SC is a great way that you can treat your liver. Some of the Chinese herbs that we love, there's a formula called Free and Easy Wander, and it's Xiao Yao San. And that formula, Chai Hu Xiao Yao San, Chai Hu is one of the herbs in it, which is buplarum, which is a mover. So, we love our coffee because it moves the liver energy, and it's a great way to, if you've got a beat up liver that's really stagnant or cirrhotic. Sometimes like black coffee is a great way. It's that bitter nature that's an astringent that can kind of pull it out. Not good for the long run, but good temporarily to keep those ducts open. But we like it because it moves it. But buplarum is a way to do that without all the stimulants. Because, if you're drinking, a gallon of coffee a day, you're not going to not going to be happy. Coffee enemas are a really good way to get your liver nice and opened up. And I wish I had one of you, I don't know if she's on here today, but if Allie's on, you could plug in. She gave me she's got a great brand of coffee that she uses for the coffee enemas, and that's been super helpful. But yeah, if you're interested in that, we can certainly find some resources with coffee enemas. And then Diane, you're asking, what is the formula for a coffee enema? Well, there's a whole process that you go through. Obviously, you got to steep the coffee, let it cool. There's a specific type of coffee that you use, and then you lie on your side and you use just an enema bag with the coffee, and then you're going to be, it's about a 10 to 15 minute process. It doesn't take a lot of time. Some people say you want to shift back and forth, and then that's where you activate those bile ducts and all of those ducts in the liver. It's like a purging process. And then we'll try to get the brand. It's at home, so I'll plug it in Signal later on when I get there. Okay, sorry, and I missed a question. Lynn, does interrupted sleep during those hours affect the liver from these processes? And yes, interrupted sleep in general is going. Thanks. So Lynn, that's a great question. And I appreciate you asking that, because between 1 and 3 a.m., if you're waking up during that time, that's problematic. So this is where, when you go to bed at night, having a ritual. I love, I don't know if your cats like catnip, but you can do catnip tea with chamomile, and it's really good at night to just calm down the nervous system. Use a little hawthorn berry for the heart. There's just some great ways, but you do not want to be waking up between 1 and 3, because your liver really never gets a chance to fully detoxify and purge. So that's an awesome question there. Okay, so on the liver, one of the things that the liver is responsible for is it's responsible for the nervous system. So if you ever get tremors, or if you're concerned about like Parkinson's, you notice you get like some tics, or if you notice that you get some pins and needles in your hands and in your feet, well, there's a good chance that your liver is not providing the nourishment to the nerves in a healthy way. And so one of the things that we look at is, well, like for example, with neuropathy. So what is neuropathy? Neuropathy is a disease in the nerves, and it's where the nerves lose their conductivity. And so the brain is actually where it starts. And so that's where the signal from the peripheral nerves in the feet or in the hands are sending a signal to the brain, but the brain's getting a misfiring. It's almost like if you keep calling somebody on their cell phone and you can't really hear them, it's just like, it's really scratchy. It's similar to being in my house. I don't get great reception at my house, even though I live like above the Capitol. So I'm like in the city, but I don't get great reception. And so it's kind of weird, but that's what happens with neuropathy. And so neuropathy, it can be impacted by diabetes. So if you have blood sugar issues, it can be a B12 deficiency. It can be a certain type of, I believe it's a microcytic anemia is one of those anemic tendencies that can cause it. If you have Raynaud's disease, sometimes Raynaud's, it can be mistaken for, neuropathy. So this is just it's something that we have to look at. But with neuropathy, one of the new treatments that we've discovered, and Dan Kellums, who you guys have seen on the show, he's created a novel pathway that literally is knocking out neuropathy. So it's with Procaine. And so it's an easy process of correcting this nerve pathway, but the Procaine relaxes the central nervous system. And then part of what happens when the nervous system's relaxed, then your liver can relax because your digestive system works better. So, we've spent a lot of time on Pillar 1 talking about the liver, which is such a fascinating organ to me. But then if you look at the gut component, how that relates, well, your digestive system, if it's working well, your liver is what activates. It's like the liver is like the general in the army. And it's like, okay, go. Now you go. And now the enzymes go. And the pancreas, you secrete your enzymes. And the stomach acids, all right, we need the hydrochloride. And so the liver is calling all the shots, like the quarterback. And then once the stomach starts to do its function, you're chewing your food, you got the amylase that's breaking down those simple sugars and carbohydrates. You swallow it, and then your stomach's like this cauldron of fire. I mean, so it's like that's your oven, and that's why cooking food is so good for you, because you don't have to do all the work digestively. And I know some of the raw foods, I'm not against raw foods, especially if they have enzymes that can help you with the digestive process. Or if you have foods that are not been cooked, but they've been fermented, like ceviche, amazing, right? It tastes so good. Or you have sauerkraut or kimchi, some of the fermentation process, that's pre-digestion, it's another form of it. But cooking our foods actually can really help denature those proteins. So when it hits our digestive tract, now it's smooth flowing and it hits our stomach. We start breaking apart those proteins. It comes into the small intestine. You're absorbing all the nutrients in your duodenum and your ileum. And then the cool thing about that is you're getting those nutrients. Now the gallbladder, which, when the fats hit the small intestine, the gallbladder emulsifies those fatty acids. They could get transported into the liver, to get transported into the brain. And then when your food hits your large intestine, this is the crazy thing, and this is what we're learning so much about, is once the food hits the large intestine, then that food actually starts to get, it goes through another phase of digestion. Now the bacteria start eating, and the bacteria love fiber. So, if you're eating a lot of vegetables, like that 2 pounds of cooked vegetables a day, primarily cooked, you're going to get another activation of nutrients from the food that's in your large intestine based on the bacteria in your gut. So, all right. So, sorry, a couple questions coming in. Hey, Diane's asked, does taking charcoal help to detox the liver? How about drinking water with lemon juice in it every morning? Okay, so let's talk about some detox strategies real quick here. Oh, and then Bev's on. So Bev said, MOTS-C, very effective and one of my favorites. Thanks, Bev. Yeah, I love the MOTS-C. She's talking about this peptide. Okay, so activated charcoal helps in phase 2 of the detox, Diane. So there's 4 major pathways of detoxification in the liver. And so one of the pathways is where you look at the oxidative stress, you look at the hormone, the phase 1 and phase 2, you look at glucuronidase. And the interesting thing is, with taking activated charcoal, it's a really great way of binding with toxins that the liver has, is working on getting out of the system. And so I love taking activated charcoal. If ever I'm drinking alcohol, I make sure that there's activated charcoal, usually, right there with it. And then if I'm working on a detox, I'll do activated charcoal. I don't necessarily like to do it every day, because activated charcoal can make your herbs, your supplements, and even any medication. The activated charcoal can stop the metabolism of those. So you want to make sure you take it away from anything else. But activated charcoal is amazing. I like glutathione. So glutathione is what's produced in that phase 1. And so if any of you have elevated AST or ALT, or issues with your albumin levels or your BUN protein levels, and then especially your homocysteine, excuse me, that's the biggest one, in your blood work, glutathione is going to be the best. So Dan, what I like to do is I like to do glutathione and activated charcoal if ever I'm eating at a place that I don't really know the quality of the food, or if I'm having a drink. That's been really good for me. And it's what's recommended as far as a daily liver cleanse. For those of you, page 97 in my book, you'll get to about page 106, I believe. And there's this drink that Dr. Eric Berg trained me on years ago, decades ago. And it's where you add lemon juice, just like you said, do some fresh squeezed lemon, or take some organic lemon juice and you put it in water, and then you do unsweetened cranberry and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And that is, not only is it tasty, you can put a little cinnamon in there, tasty drink, but I do that probably twice a day still. I've done that for years. and it feels really good on the liver, and it's really hydrating too. So remember, hydration is one of the critical things for the liver. Beautiful questions. Okay, so in the digestive tract, we're still on pillar number 1. So every patient that comes in, when we look at your case, we say, okay, what's our strategy? We meet together as a team, and then we say, okay, there's 3 pathways that we've got to open up. So in order to do that, in order to activate these 3 pathways, we've always got to remove the triggers, remove the inflammation. And sometimes, Diane, that is the activated charcoal as part of the removal. Glutathione helps move that methylation process so things move through. Methylation is one of the detox pathways of the liver. So we get activation with B vitamins, like your methylated B vitamins, activation with glutathione, with selenium, some of these great antioxidants. And then once that activation starts, and we've removed those barriers, we've got you on epitalin, thymosin alpha-1 to reharmonize and create some intelligence in your immune system and your central nervous system. The epitalin, also interestingly enough, is the best peptide that we've ever seen for resetting those circadian, those sleep rhythms. Epitalin has been studied since the 80s. Is some of the earliest research I could find. I mean, epitalin is a telomerase enzyme, so it's been in our bodies forever. I mean, it's just peptides. The beautiful thing about them is you have a MODS-C gene that has the peptide is like a little envelope, and you get a message in your mailbox, and it's like opening up the envelope, and then it makes 1,000 things better. It's like having a little wish list in an envelope. And so it works on these genetic pathways with the DNA. And so epitalin works specifically on the pineal gland. And then what we found is it goes into the DNA and it just starts turning off the disease. So it will lower cholesterol if you have high cholesterol, hyperlipidemia. It lowers blood pressure. It actually helps stabilize the cortisol, so the stress response in your body. Epitalin's been shown to help extend the telomeres. So those little shoelaces at the end of your DNA that allow your body to express health. It actually has been shown to, by using 2 cycles of it, it's been shown to increase lifespan by 7 years. So just some phenomenal things. That there's a doctor out of, let's see, his name is spelled Kvason. So Dr. Kvason is spelled Khavinson. And Kvason has done so much of the research on some of these reset peptides as far as controlling the epigenetic factors. So there's epigenetics is like those are the environmental factors that really jam up our liver, jam up the digestive system. And so what Dr. Kvason has done is he's looked and he said, well, are there some ways that we can actually help people live longer and live healthier? And so he was one of the first doctors to study the pathways of epitalin. So yeah, look him up. He's got some very interesting studies. He's one of his studies found that just by using these peptide molecules. Now, Dr. Kvason, he passed away in 2014, but he created these 6 core peptide structures. One for the thymus gland, one for the epitalin, the pineal gland, one for the cerebral cortex of the brain, one for the prostate. So fellas out there, this is a great one if you need it. He's got one for the retina, and then one for the thymulin. So one of the amino acids that activates and regulates immunity. So just a genius researcher there. But epitalin is a great way to jumpstart those circadian rhythms. And then we go to phase 2, and this is repair the damage. And so it's like, okay, well, endothelial cells, connective tissue, any leaky gut, leaky brain, all those things need to be repaired. And then phase 3, this is the regenerate phase. And so that is, that's where you can really activate your body. And actually, instead of going from most places, most of us, we look at our health and we think, oh, I'm just gonna, once my symptoms are gone, I'm healthy. But I know you guys on this show, you guys realize that, man, health never stops. There's always another level. And so that's the phase 3. And that's the most beautiful phase that many of you are in now. So congratulations. Okay, so let's talk about pillar number 2. So we've got about 10 minutes, and I spent a lot of time talking about the liver. But man, there's some exciting things coming up, and especially with the new Procaine treatments for neuropathy. This is a breakthrough that I've never seen before, because neuropathy has been challenging to treat. So if you know of anyone who has neuropathy, send them in. We've got a brand new treatment that's very simple. It's an IV. So it works great. Okay, phase 2. Or not phase 2, but pillar number 2 is nutrition. And so nutrition is key. Obviously, if your liver's not working great and your gut's not working great, you're not going to get as much from nutrition. That does not mean like, okay, I'm just going to eat crappy until we get my liver fixed and my gut fixed, because surprise, they all work together, right? Your nutrition is your medicine. As I mentioned before, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. And so nutrition actually becomes a critical pathway to help opening up the liver. And so this is why we're big proponents of cruciferous vegetables. Cruciferous vegetables have this molecule called DIM in them, and that DIM helps activate that detoxification of hormones. So men, we go through what's called andropause, and that's when our estrogen levels start to rise and our testosterone starts to drop. And so one of the things that we need to take on a regular basis is DIM to help block the estrogens from eating the testosterone, because estrogen tends to be a stronger hormone. Let's see. I got some questions coming in here. Okay, drink from Dr. Berg. Okay, so overview on the drink from Dr. Berg. You put lemon juice. It's on page, I think, 106 in my book, Your Health Transformation. Lemon juice, a little bit of lemon juice, like a couple teaspoons, unsweetened cranberry juice, apple cider vinegar. It's got to have the mother in it. The Bragg's is got the mother. And then a little bit of cinnamon is what I like to add to it. And if you put it in sparkling water, really, really good. Okay, so hopefully that helps. And a lower. Okay, yeah. Now need to start your epitalon to regulate your electrolyte. Yes, Bev. So yes, to more stabilization, epitalon, especially with what's recently gone on. So, okay, great. Okay, there it is. We got it all. Okay, so nutrition. How is your diet? Where can you clean things up? What is the path of least resistance? Well, I think number 1 is, when are you eating? Make that simple. Don't eat, keep your window. 12 hours is absolutely the maximum amount of time you want to be consuming food. Ideally, shrink that down to about 10 hours of where you're eating. So you have a 14-hour window of fasting. Some of you, if we've read your labs and you have thyroid issues, or if your body is malnourished, this does not apply to you yet, but that's a big thing for the liver. Getting your vegetables in, making sure you're removing any kind of chemicals. So this is where organic is really important. And the Environmental Working Group has its Dirty Dozen that's been recently published. So you can look at that. Hydration is a big part of this whole process, of the digestive process. And then, eat some type of offal, or, and you guys hear me talk about it all the time. Some of you just take the liver capsules, but like liver or heart, kidneys, lungs aren't bad either. But eat some of the offal, the organ meats. Those have incredible nutrients in them. And then what that does is it helps activate your protein synthesis, protein assimilation, and it's really some of the most nutrients you can get. So make sure your meat is wild caught fish if you're eating fish. Wild game is ideal. Hunting season's not here yet, but will be here in the fall. So luckily I have brother-in-laws and friends that hunt. and they bring me all they're like, you really want these livers? I'm like, yes. And my wife's like gagging in the back as I'm chopping these livers up and, storing it in the freezer and cooking some of it. But yeah, it's, so once a week, eat some offal, but try to get your meats as organic as possible. We use Ballerina Farms. They're out of Camas. It's amazing. Ruth says, more liver. Yes. Awesome. And so these are all great ways. So your diet, you want to make sure that you're getting enough vegetables, and then your carbohydrates are a really important part. Carbohydrates have gotten a bad rap the last 10 years, rightfully so, because we ate a bunch of garbage carbohydrates and vegetable oils, and we went on this low fat kick. And so, but we forget that the carbohydrates, those starches is what I mean by carbohydrates, those resistant starches are so good for your bacteria in your gut. And so this means like your rice, cook all your rice in the beginning of the week and then let it sit, because it changes the nature of the proteins. And of the starches, they become a corkscrew shape, and then you don't have the spike in blood sugar. Same if you're, for steel cut oats, we make a bunch in the Instapot, and then I put that in my goat yogurt, and it's an awesome breakfast. It's got like this nice bitter flavor, and that's what I'll eat at 10 o'clock, when we're done here, which is a great time for me to kick off my eating process. But these are just simple things that you want to do. It's just food prep. Some of the other starches, your sweet potatoes, yams, these are great. Cook them before, or your potatoes, and then it changes the nature of the starch so that your bacteria can actually get those. They love this stuff, and it's the butyric acid that they create from it. Add some butter to your starches. And then apples are still one of my favorites. I know you guys have heard me talk about apples forever, but apples feed the Akkermansia in your gut. And the Akkermansia is that bacteria phylum that actually helps you stay nice and lean. So it turns on the fat burning hormones, but the Akkermansia is also what helps turn off inflammation. So just the apple peel itself has a lot of pectin in it. And then the fibers in the apples can really feed that. So blueberries and apples are my two go-to fruits. So, I try to eat an apple a day, make sure it's organic. You've got to wash it off, use some essential oil spray, and they're great. Okay, there's a couple comments coming in. Ooh, Ruth just got some grass-fed liver crisps. I like the chicken crisps. I've had those. I've not had the liver. I'm going to have to look at that. If you have the, if you have any types of brand for that, Carnivore All Arias. Oh, there it is. Thanks, Ruth. Right as I'm asking. Okay, yeah, apples are not in season, no, unless they're coming from Chile, and then they get trafficked all over. Peel the apples due to the wax. Okay, Diane saying, and this is a great question, Diane. This is really good. So yes, the apples, they're saying peel the apples because there's wax. Unfortunately, even on some of the organic apples, you're like, why are you putting that crap on there? But they want to sell them, and they, the apples that shine look better to us apparently. But I would find in Montana, Diane, go to a local farmer's market, see if there's some organic apple orchards near you. I'm sure there's got to be, but then use some essential oil spray and just wipe off all that wax, clean it really good, because you do want to eat the apples with the peel on it. I don't eat a lot of the flesh. I don't eat most of it. I just eat the outer part of it, just because I'm trying to keep my fructose levels down. So one apple, I believe, has about maybe 15 grams of fructose, and you want to keep your fructose consumption below 25. So a handful of blueberries is going to have about 10. So yeah, awesome. All right. So here's some things. So nutrition, make sure you're getting your nutrition dialed in. This is going to be a key component. And as you get your nutrition dialed in, now luckily we have our local co-op swaps. So we have our vegetables. If you've met Chef Hillary, she's got that great farmer, Shad, who she's connected us with for years. We've done a little co-op. And so we go get our vegetables every week. We get this big amount, and we always have a goal in our family. We're going to eat every last piece of the vegetables. And it's so fun. So we just make them all, and it's it's a really cool experiment. So find a local co-op right now. As Ruth said, eat seasonal and local. That's an ideal way to eat. Great things there. The third pillar of health is your hormones. So hormones, this is key because there's ways of optimizing hormones. And one of the peptides that we love for this is activating the growth hormone pathways. And growth hormone pathways are activated when you sleep. So our hack for the week is better sleep. They're activated when you exercise, when you push yourself a little bit. It can be when you have, cold exposure, heat exposure, when you meditate, when you get your body, your nervous system relaxed. But hormones are a key component because they're the messengers for the body. Hormones basically tell your biology that you're young and you're thriving, you're healing, or it's time to recycle you. Regan, your body's not healthy anymore and we want our parts back, as kind of the universe, sometimes it feels like, I'm not a rental, I'm here, I own this thing, my body. And so no one's taking it back. And so, you really got to fight for it and have this idea that, man, I'm going to keep my hormones as healthy as possible. So one of the peptides that I've loved using over the last few years is the CJC ipamorelin with IGF-1. And what that's shown to do is have a 7 times an increase in your growth hormone. It's a somatostatin inhibitor, and somatostatin is that hormone that kind of puts the block on growth hormone, because if that thing's always turned on, you're going to have problems, which is why taking growth hormone is not ideal. So this CJC 1297 or 1295 with ipamorelin, once it takes off that somatostatin, you get this nice spike of growth hormone, and then it comes back on. So it's not like it's turned on indefinitely, and that's the beautiful thing about peptides. Sorry, we had a question that came through here, and that is microwaves. So okay, so here's the thing: is microwaves are so easy, right, Susan? And there is some definite controversy around microwaves, and I'm still not really a fan of putting those nuclear, like nuking your food, which is what you're doing. But there was a research study, and I have to just be as objective as I can. There's a research study that showed that the cooking method that retains the most nutrients in vegetables was microwave use. So so there you go. Ruth says used only for heat pads. Not sure. Yeah. So anyway, you can look at it in multiple ways. I think that microwaves, the way they denature the proteins, might not be the best. It's not my favorite way of cooking. But if you're in a bind, you have to use a microwave. I think there's worse things you can do to your body. So hormones, microwaves can affect hormones. Do not put any plastic in the microwaves. And then last question. So when you cook your beets earlier and rice, etc., how do you heat them up? I just put them in water in a little pan on my stove, and that's very simple, easy way to heat them up. So, okay, guys. Well, the final 2 pillars, which we didn't get a lot of time, is exercise and brain health, but we got plenty of time in the future. Really appreciate you guys. If you're not in our hack, we need to get you guys in this, because this is the community where we really are making a commitment that our health is our #1 priority, and together we can transform our own lives, and that allows us to transform other people's lives. So really appreciate you guys being part of this. Thanks, Ruth. Ruth said, thanks, always fun. That was fantastic. Thank you. Really appreciate everyone being on this, and thank you for all your coordination on the backside, and Cameron. And we will see you guys. I will see you next week. And please don't ever hesitate to send me a question. If you say, hey, Regan, I want you to give some insights on this topic, I will do the research for you. So I love researching. I'm that kind of nerd. On the weekends when people are hanging out on a beach, I'm like in a book. So, all right. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.